Hey guys, this is AC Service Tech, and today what we're looking at is installing a natural gas to propane conversion kit on an 80% efficient packaged unit. Alright, so the very first thing that we're going to need to do is we have the gas off and the gas disconnected right now. Um, and then we're going to have to install a nipple right here. So if you don't have the right size nipple, you're going to have to install the right size one. So what we have here is a small nipple with a tap in it, and we're going to install a low pressure cutoff switch right here. Now this manufacturer is saying to basically break the flame rod sensor, okay, which is down here. So what we're going to do is we're going to have one line come in and then one come off and go to the flame rod. All right, so that's the first thing that we're going to have to do. Once again, the power is off, the gas is off. We just want to make sure that the electrical gas valve does not move when we're trying to disconnect this part of the union and the nipple. Now we're going to install thread sealant on the threads of this nipple and go ahead and install this. So this pipe dope's a little on the drier side, but it is good. So we're going to go ahead and install this nipple. And we're going to make sure that this tap faces upwards. That's what the manufacturer's calling for on this, just in order for the low pressure switch to act properly. All right. You want to make sure to never tighten half-inch gas pipe too hard, because you could always crack the weld in the nipple here. A little bit more, and we have it. All right. Now we'll install the low pressure gas switch and make sure that you're not tightening it by this as you go. Because this part, if you try to tighten it by this, you're going to end up cracking it. Come another time around here, and that'll do it. Now we're going to leak test the union and these threads and all that once we go ahead and attach the gas line back together. All right, we've attached our low pressure gas cutoff switch right here. All right, it's a little micro switch. It senses if the propane tank is running low on fuel. It doesn't want the burners to continue pumping gas into here and then have some type of a problem with a fire in here because it's not making it into the tubes correctly. But anyway, before we tighten this union, before we leak test, what I want to do is I want to pull these out right here and I want to change the orifices. All right. So on this particular unit, it's calling for size 54 hole. All right, size 54, and that is at 0 to 8,000 elevation feet. All right, right here we're very close to 0. As well, when we do set this, we're going to set it at the 0 elevation mark at 10-inch water column. We're going to be able to test the incoming gas here and the outgoing gas here, supplying the burners. So actually we could have taken these orifices out first and replaced them before we put this in, but we're just going to be real careful when we take this out, just to make sure that we don't damage anything. All right, so here we go. So you see we have to take these 3 orifices out and replace them. So this one right here looks to be a number 42 for natural gas, and it's going to use a 54 for propane. So if you see what I put on here already, I just put thread sealant on just by hand. The ones that you're going to take out usually don't have thread sealant on them, so I guess you could get away without it, but I put it on just to be safe. So I just rub it right on with my hand, my finger right there. Doesn't need a whole lot. You don't want to make a mess about it, and you don't want to clog up the orifice. I would also advise that you do this with a ratchet set when you take the old orifices out and you put the new ones in, because you could oblong the orifices. You could possibly, they're in so tight sometimes that you can't even get them out. All right, so here we go. We're going to take these out. They're in very, very, very tight. And brass is malleable, so if you take an adjustable wrench to it, it can just strip the outside, and then you won't even be able to get a socket set on it. You're going to put these off to the side where you're not going to lose them, because you should leave everything that you took out of this unit. You're gonna leave here, so that if they ever convert it back to natural gas again, they'll have all the parts. Most of the time, most technicians will leave it. I've only run into, not a crazy amount of jobs where people have not supplied the parts, but sometimes there's something missing, like the spring, and they're easy enough to get. All right, so we have all 3 orifices in. We're gonna just double check them, make sure they all say 54. That one says 54, and that one says 54, so we're good. Now we're going to go ahead and tighten them in. They don't have to be tightened too hard. The next thing that we're going to have to do is take that brass cap off. There's a spring under there that we have to replace. So we're going to replace the natural gas one with the propane one. Now we're going to count how many times we come out, but basically a lot of times you're going to put the propane spring in, maybe like nine turns, full revolutions, 360 degrees. This manufacturer right here, this conversion kit, doesn't even give you like a ballpark of how far this one needs to go in. So we're going to guess it at about 9. So we're going to go ahead and take this out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, about 8 or 9. So about 9 turns. It's a little bit of a pain to get out at the end right there. All right, so that's what you're looking at, that little plastic piece. So we have this spring right there. You can just pull on it with a flathead screwdriver. You can pull it out with a flathead screwdriver, or you can do something like this out of a piece of thermostat wire so you don't lose it. So we're going to put that down, and the new spring is located in this little bag here. So I'm going to put this down just so I don't lose the spring. So if you can see this spring is actually white, and it doesn't have as many revolutions on it. All right, it's actually spread out a little bit further. So the white ones that are spread out a little bit further, that's propane. All right, these ones right here, that's natural gas. They usually look the same on every single one you do, at least on comfort cooling furnaces. All right, so since we have this out, we're going to just make sure we're going to put it straight up and down so the spring rests right in the middle, where this indent is supposed to capture the spring. So we're going to set that back down in there like this. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, I typically do that in place, but just for the instance of having this straight up and down so the spring seats in the exact right spot, it's better to do it with it out to just set it upright, but you can do it if it's horizontally. It's just kind of more of a pain because you want to try to get that spring in the right spot. And sometimes these inserts don't capture the spring very well. But now we're going to go ahead and put this back in. We're going to put our leads back in here. This is the 24 volts that energizes the gas valve. Put this here. And that one there. Now on the other side, you're going to attach one part to the flame rod. So every manufacturer is going to tell you to break a different wire. Some have you break the red wire. Some have you break one of the temp sensor wires like this. And this particular one's having you break the flame sensor one. In my opinion, I actually like it breaking the flame sensor so it doesn't even try to fire. I don't like this how it ends up firing, and then after it fires, it has 3 seconds to let the gas through before the control board has to sense that there's a flame to the ground with the ground rod, with the flame rod. But that's the way that the manufacturer's calling for it, so I'm going to go ahead and leave it like that. We're going to put this propane sticker, LP, liquefied petroleum, liquefied propane, right on the top here, so everybody knows. And we're going to go ahead and connect our gas line back in. Alright, we do have the gas on now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten this down. Alright, then I'm going to turn the gas on and purge the air out of the lines, and then I'm going to close this down. Alright, so we're just getting any residual air out of the lines that may have gathered while we were replacing this pipe. And now we're going to go ahead and leak test right here. You could use a dabber or a spray bottle, just don't spray everywhere. So that's why I have my hand on the other side here. You can use a rag, whatever you want here. Non-corrosive bubble leak detector. You want to give it a few minutes, just make sure that you don't have any bubbles. I'm looking all around and I don't see any bubbles and I don't see any bubble movement. All right. So we're going to go ahead and we can wipe it off now. You could leave it set a little longer just in order to verify if a bubble grows over time. Now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to check our inlet gas pressure. So right here we have a little Allen screw. We're going to loosen that up and we're going to check our propane. First things first, we're going to go ahead and turn our propane off. I told you before I got this out of my gauge type manometer, and now we're going to use the digital manometer. So this little rubber piece does not come with the digital manometer, but you might want to get that just to fit over an area like this. This little hose right here would have a hard time fitting over that. You might be able to get it to work, but kind of a pain. So we're going to go ahead and turn this on and zero it out. We want to make sure that it's an inch water column like it is right now. We're going to turn the propane on and see how much pressure we have. All right, the manufacturer was calling for 12 to 13 inch water column coming in, and that's what we have. So we're good. So we're going to go ahead and turn the propane back off, put the set screw back in, and then we're going to come over on this side. This is going to be the outlet gas pressure going to the orifices. All right, so we're going to adjust the pressure right here with that plastic insert, pressing down on the spring, and we're going to check it right here. All right, so we're going to take this outlet screw off, and we're going to press our rubber bushing in place, and that way we'll be able to read our pressure coming out. So we're going to go ahead and turn the furnace on at the thermostat. We can also jump out just W and red here at the thermostat wire at the control board. All right, so we take that R terminal and the W terminal on the control board and jumper that out. All right, but what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and inside right now and just turn it on at the thermostat. We're going to also zero this manometer out as well. So what you have here is you have the inducer motor turning on first, the pressure switch then closes, the sparker is going to spark, then the gas valve is going to allow gas through for about 3 seconds. After it does that, the flame rod has to prove that there's a flame through the flame rectification process, which means that this switch would have to be closed in order for that to happen, since it's breaking the flame rod wire. Right. So now it lit. We did not prove a flame. I'm going to let it go ahead and try again. What happened is there might have been a little air in the line yet, and by the time that the flame actually ignited, it ran out of time before the flame rod was going to be able to sense it. We're going to turn the power off, turn it back on again, because our status code is going and it's on a lockout right now. So we're going to turn it off, then we're going to turn it back on again. Presently, it's not actually sensing the flame on the flame rod. I'm going to turn the pressure up just a little bit. We were at about 9-inch water column before. We're going to go ahead and see if it'll light. Had a little bit of a rough start. I'm going to shut the power off. I'm going to turn it on again. But first things first, we're going to adjust this up to 10-inch water column. Want to make sure it has a nice, smooth firing operation. It just may not have been up high enough, that's all. .88. Alright, we don't want to tighten it up anymore because we're not able to adjust it any higher. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen my screwdriver down until we see where it's going to start dropping at. Alright, there it is. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and tighten it back up again. We just don't want to tighten it too far. That'll be about it right there. Okay, so 9.89. We're going to turn the power off and then we're going to turn it back on again. So now it's going to turn on again here. Got the inducer motor running, pressure switch closed, and now the sparker will spark. And we're right about 10-inch water column. We could either ask the propane company to turn the propane up a little bit. I do know that the tubing is sized properly. It's sized to about 15,000 BTUs higher than what this furnace is rated for. So this furnace is a 75,000 BTU furnace, and we have about 90,000 BTUs of gas flow. It's a direct from the propane tank outside. But the propane tank is a smaller tank. It's only a 100-pounder. This is at a mobile home residence. It looks like the homeowner might want to have a second 100-pound tank installed. All right, because what happens is when you're firing and you're using this much propane, the vapor pressure could reduce too fast for the liquid to repressurize and vapor form. All right. But the pipe is the pipe that runs from the tank to the furnace is sized properly. But that's how it's done. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn this power off, and we're going to go ahead and set this Allen screw back in there again, and then we'll turn it back on and check for proper operation. Some manufacturers also have something to disrupt the air, basically in the burner tubes in here. Sometimes they have you drill a hole into the burner tube assembly and put a screw in there, and that will kind of help mix the air and the fuel. This particular manufacturer does not have that. I know in the older furnaces we used to have to put a plate in there to limit the combustion air. So, but each manufacturer is different, but that's how it's done. So now we just turn the power off, and we're going to go ahead and disconnect our manometer. And make sure that you put your brass screw back in place right here. After you do that, you can just check on these Allen screws like this. You let it run one more time, and just make sure that you don't have any air bubbles coming out. This would have air bubbles all the time. This would only be if, you know, as the gas is going through the gas valve, it were to come out. That's the only time that would happen. But after you check that, then you can go ahead and blow that back out again and wipe it out with a rag, and you're good to go. All right. Hope you enjoyed yourself. We'll see you next time at AC Service Tech channel.